Caitlin. We're gonna put her on the mat for 10 minutes and then back in her chair. Where's the drum, Micah? Good job, you're looking at it. What does the drum say? The drum says, boom! Yeah. What does the drum say? The drum says, boom! Thank you. What does the drum say? The drum says, boom! What does the drum say? The drum says, boom! Music therapy is a lot of things. It's using the music and manipulation of music. It's interaction with the music mostly. Instead of giving the child a cookie for completing the task, the music is the motivation. The music is the reward. They want to do it because they want to interact with the music. We'll say boo to the pumpkin, boo to the pumpkin, boo to the pumpkin. We'll say boo.
I've spoken to many people who have not had music therapy in their life and who have only heard of it, and they think, oh, you guys just go in and play music. That's one of the biggest misconceptions.
The thing with music therapy, what makes it music therapy even, is one, you have to have a therapist. And you can use recorded music, which you would have on your iPod or whatever, but you also do live things, like you would make music together live, or they're listening to music live that you're playing right there in that moment.
But that idea is you're there to work with someone on their needs, and I'm there to guide and be with you in that time. I'm not here to fix it. I'm here to be with you for you to find your own way.
It's a triangle. Music therapy is like a triangle, like my old professor, Mr. Joe used to say. He said the music is here on the top, the patient is on the bottom here, and the therapist is right here. So if anything here is off balanced, like this, or I don't know, whatever an off balance triangle looks like to you, okay, then the music therapy session is never going to be balanced. A music therapist cannot be self-centered, and a client cannot always get everything they want in a session as well, because that's not really therapeutic. And the focus cannot only be on a music as well, because that's like listening to an iPod.
That's therapeutic, but it's not music therapy, if that makes any sense. It's just something that you're doing to make yourself feel better at that time, but whereas with therapy, you have those goals and you have those interventions, and it's all working together. So there's like receptive interventions where they would be listening to music. There's recreative things where you'd be like playing somebody's song that's already written, or there's like improv where you would just kind of go with the flow of the music. Like whatever the client's doing, you match that, or if they're doing it on their own, like you just let them fully express themselves without any guidelines, or sometimes with like a little bit of guidelines.
You kind of have to be able to play some instruments and carry a tune in a bucket, but you also have to have a lot of passion, because it's not a highly paid job. You don't get into it for the money. It's, a service. You're there to guide them, to help them figure out what they need to do next. Oh, that's so lovely. Hello. Hi, Demarius. Who's next? Hello. Becca. Hello to Becca.
would like open up a session, like it'd be the equivalent of saying like, hey, how's it going today? Like, I mean, obviously you would say those things too. You'd be like, hey everybody, how you doing? All right, we're gonna get started with the hello song. And so then you start playing the hello song. We use that especially with geriatrics because it's like that 12-bar blues thing. And it works really well with children too. How do you do? Hello, Vincent. How do you do? We're so glad that you are here today. Hello, everybody. How do you do? Hello, everybody. How do you do? My practicum session right now is with adolescents. You would not have them sing a hello song, you know what I mean? You would just kind of check in like, hey, how are you doing? So it's all really based on like the population. Like you would have to think about their age and their functioning, like as well as like, you know, is this really appropriate? So you really have to just kind of like think about where your client is and how they would respond to it.
Hello, Caitlin. Hello, dear Caitlin. Sing hello, hello, hello. Sing hello, hello, hello. Sing hello.
Good job, Caitlin.
You know what you're liking this. Let's go with it.
Yeah.
How about some Nutcracker? You liked that last time. Let's see. Nice. Yay! The students I work with, there are strategies and different ways that they learn that help them to progress, that help them to strengthen their skills and learn new skills. But there are no cures. And we focus on what they can do, because they can do a lot more than you think they can.
As an art, we use music to find meaning and value. So it's not about fixing something, it's not pathological, meaning that this happens with music and then this happens with your health. It's about a continuum of health. As a science, too, we know music affects the body physiologically, neurologically, psychologically, and physically. And as a humanity, it's the overall aspect of culture and community, how it's innate in all of us. And we all have different ideas of what music is. However, every society has some kind of musical idiom or connection to it. I mean, if you think about the way you learn, it's through song. You know, how many poems could you recite, right? But how many songs could you sing off the top of your head? So that idea of it's so connected to us and so ingrained. And I think we understand each other musically more than we understand each other culturally at times.
Our teacher, it was for our second exam in our class, Music and Therapy 1. And so she told us to write a song and like put the chords and record it and everything. It was really intense and kind of sad. Like we really had to put yourself in that place. And like it's the same thing we'd have to do in a session. Like if you were working with this client, you'd have to put yourself in the place of a 10-year-old boy who is sick and going to die. Like, it's super sad, but like you have to do it as a therapist, you know? And so you write a song that hopefully can convey what he's feeling, because he's intubated and he can't speak or sing. So he communicates via iPad. I know it's hard to face, but it's my time to go. Before I take my leave, I just want you both to know you loved me well and showed me so much care. But I love you, so remember when I'm not there, to be strong and know that I'm okay, and that a lifetime can be lived in just one day. So just be strong and know that I'm okay, and that a lifetime can be lived in just one day. With you I live a lifetime every day. I love you in this lifetime and always. Yeah.
Oh, what?
I was asking, how did you think this one sounds?
Still a little.
Honestly, I do feel it is important to have self-care and self-awareness, because if you do not keep in touch with what's going on in you, you might reflect something that the client is not actually going through onto the client. And then you're not really doing therapy for the client, you're doing therapy for yourself. We tend to think that we don't really need therapy ourselves because we're music therapy students and we're studying, we should be helping others. But music therapy has actually been really, music has been really beneficial for me, and it feels like therapy for me as well.
To be a therapist, you have to understand who you are. It's like, in fact, I recommend personal therapy. It's for anything. How do you know what it's like to be a client if you've never been one? You know, how do you know what it's like to drive a car if you've never been a passenger? You're more sensitive driving when you know what it feels like when someone's driving you, you know? And to be able to do that, you have to have self-awareness. You have to explore yourself, and you have to realize your connections with what's going on, so that even your idea of, I want to help someone, where does that come from? What is your need? What is your basic need to help someone?
I was in Jamaica. We were not in the infirmary, but we were in a hospital care facility, and there was this elderly man. He didn't have a leg, and I guess his family also had died or passed away, and he really seemed to not want to go and participate in anything that was going on around him. He really seemed to be shut away from the world, like he didn't want to bond with anybody or anything. So, I don't know, I got really curious about that man. And I was thinking, well, I wouldn't want to be like that. I mean, I know I cannot walk. If I were him, I wouldn't be able to walk. And I really want to do something. And that's the part of me that wanted to cheer him up as well, which is saying, well, okay, calm down. If he will want to cheer up or if he will want to change his attitude, he may. But I cannot force him to do that. So I just went in there with my guitar and a few other of the music therapy students. And we started singing. Do Lord, oh do remember me. Do Lord, oh do remember me. And we kept singing that, and we kept building the intensity of it. It kept going from mezzo piano to mezzo forte, and it was just filling up the entire room. It was amazing. I felt my cells were vibrating all over. Suddenly I looked at the man, and he had a tear running down his face. And he signaled for me to come closer to him. And he took my hand and he kissed it gently. It was such a pure kiss. And he was still crying and he said, "Thank you so much." I felt like there was no meaning for me anymore. But you made me feel something again. You all here as a group. So I just feel like that was one of the most amazing experiences, and I hope I can continue to experience more of them, which is what music therapy can do.
we know we're impacting other people, but we don't know how much they're impacting us as well. And that's like the beautiful thing about music and sharing it with people.
I've worked with kids who've come from the worst experiences, and if I told you their stories, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, they're worse than what you would see in a movie. And I've seen some of these kids just be able to live life, go to school, function on a normal level with the worst stories. To be able to finish high school for some kids is huge. And to be able to have the coping skills to do that is great. So that, I guess if I had to define it, that is, for me, helps me get through the days, helps me realize that it's okay, there's not all this trauma and abuse and out there, that things can change.
Did you wake up? My kid is listening to parties at night. You know it's so much fun. Wherever he goes, people always know. My kid likes to listen to them.
There it is. There he is.
I really like this population because most of the time you get to see so much progress because they're so pliable. They're just learning so much and they're just sponges. Usually, by the time we're all adults, a lot of us are kind of set in our ways. And there's still progress with adults, and there's great things you can do with adults. I like the kids because you get to see so much positive interaction and so much progress.
Good job, Maya. Good job. You're putting lots of pressure on my knee.